Hello everyone and welcome to another video and what is another episode of Sunday Tech Talk. Today, the tech we're talking about is this. This is the Radeon RX 5700 and it was the cheapest one I could find on the market. It's a second-hand card from the Amazon warehouse deals section of the Amazon site and I paid £272 for it. Around £50 cheaper than you can expect to find one of these brand new. Now some of you would probably rather pay the extra for a brand new card and peace of mind, but you know me, here on this channel I like to take risks. I like to purchase second-hand hardware just for the thrill of it because it always intrigues me as to what we get in the box, whether anything's missing, how bad is the card damaged both externally and internally, and is everything working as it should. Sometimes I like to take these risks so that you don't have to. Anyway, for those of you who watched yesterday's video, you've already seen this in action, but I reboxed it again for reconstructive purposes, and today I want to talk about what I actually got with this buy and explore some of the things that I've heard about the RX 5700. Is it all that loud? Is this one particularly loud? Is that why it got returned? Who knows, but let's get it open, check it out, and yeah.
So immediately I noticed that the box was a little beaten up, which is sometimes the case regardless of item condition. It seems to be a compromise one must accept around my hometown when expecting an Amazon delivery. I don't think they drop the parcels off by van, they just kick them out the door of the Medway depot and all the way down the M2. Let's open up the box then. Now it seems we have all or most of the original accessories. I don't have anything to compare it to, but the MSI thank you card, drivers and installation manual are all here. Under the foam padding we have the RX 5700 itself. I really like reference design style cards with the blower fan. I know they can be notoriously loud and run warmer than other multi-fan counterparts, but I guess they just remind me of older hardware, which I still very much enjoy. It seems like blower style coolers are a design standard turned tradition. The card itself is in like new condition with a small scratch on the front that even the camera struggles to pick up, and we've got all the connection protection still in place. That's the name I give those little rubber bits that go in the HDMI and display ports. This card is based on the Navi 10 GPU and from what I've read in other reviews, it seems to be ideal for those wanting a decent 1440p gaming solution, up there with the likes of Team Green's RTX 2060 Super. I think for the money, the 5700 seems like a good card. But is my 5700 a good card? Well, let's put it in the test system and find out. You know the deal, used graphics cards are a riskier purchase. I'm always willing to absorb the loss if anything goes wrong as it's part and parcel of having a tech channel, but you should always read return policy details and any warranty info carefully. Amazon tend to be very good with returns. Every time I've had an issue it's always been resolved in a timely fashion, but the whole return, refund and replace thing will depend on where you buy from. With that sort of disclaimer out of the way, let's see if the card works as it should. The first thing I did was head over to AMD's website to download the latest available drivers for my operating system, in this case Windows 10. If a GPU initially works the moment you plug it into your system, then the next test of its condition is the driver installation. I've had a few cards fail specifically after installing the drivers, so initially it seems as though everything's fine, and then bam, black screen. Luckily our 5700 surpassed this test with flying colours, and all seems as it should thus far. Some reviewers said the card was very noisy, others said it wasn't too bad. I've got mine in this little Cooler Master case which doesn't have the best breathing room, so the card is probably a little warmer than it would be in a big ATX enclosure. A warmer card of course means higher fan speeds. When idle, the card sits at 34 degrees with a default fan speed of 24%. This is how it sounds from 30 centimeters away, a reading taken much closer than you'd actually sit from your system. It's quiet at 30 decibels and in fact I could hear the Ryzen stock cooler whirring up over the noise of the GPU fan, but it's not as quiet as an aftermarket card that would use software to stop the fans altogether at low temps. I then ran the Heaven benchmark at ultra settings and observed a maximum temperature of 70 degrees with an increase in noise to 44 decibels. It's audible but not annoying, and from what I can tell, it seems about right in comparison to what other reviewers say. Luckily, there's no oddities so far with this second-hand offering, and I don't think these sort of noise levels would have been the reason that someone sent it back. So, all seems well with the card so far, and now we must check out the gaming performance. In all honesty, I experienced a strange full screen glitch with this GPU yesterday, but one that seemed to be resolved since I reinstalled the card in a different system. When choosing full screen, the card would try and run the games in a strange and unsupported resolution, something like 2401 by 1863. As a result, the monitor sent out a no signal message. I have read about some driver issues, so it's not an isolated case, but this could have been the reason why the original owner returned it. After all, the last thing someone wants to see when they fire up their favourite game is a black screen. I ran a few games at various resolutions just to try and see if I could replicate this issue, and of course to check out performance of the card. Starting with Battlefield 5 here at 4K with DX12, and as you can see, the 5700 does a nice job. As I switched to 1440p, I was getting closer to the dreaded 1080p test, which was the one that caused the issue yesterday, but so far at these higher resolutions, the card seems to be doing a decent job and we haven't run into any graphical issues here. However, making that switch to 1920 by 1080 once again replicated the issues I faced yesterday. I thought I had eradicated the issue here, but I guess not. Because everything else is fine, I have to assume that at this point it could just be a driver problem or a problem with the HDMI port, as this resolution through the display port worked just fine. It's still relatively early days after all. Even setting a custom resolution to try and force the GPU to maintain 1080p through HDMI didn't work. Anyway, the same thing occurred at 1080p in every other game too, but the 1440p and 2160p performance remained fine and consistent. I'll be carrying out full benchmark tests with both this card and the Ryzen CPU in another video, because I want to talk about the system I built and why I built it in more detail, as well as how I saved some money here and there. I still try to squeeze in a few tests today though. Despite my awful driving in Dirt Rally 2, the card still performed as it should. At this point I'm pretty much convinced it's a driver problem. It's still early days for Navi 10. This is probably the newest GPU I've owned as well, to be honest, and I haven't seen many about on the used market yet, but certain outlets like Amazon or other online retailers can sometimes provide an opportunity to save a few quid on returned or open box items. I'd like to reiterate that for peace of mind, I'm sure many of you would rather spend the extra, but just know that it's not impossible to find deals on even the newest of hardware, though it certainly won't be for everybody. With all that said and done, I hope you enjoyed this look at what seemed to be at the time of purchase the cheapest RX 5700 on the market. A card that I'm very happy with, and one that surprised me in terms of specifics like noise levels, for example. Some reviews led me to believe that this was going to be a very loud card, but I found that even under gaming situations it really isn't extremely audible at all. It seems quieter than the 1080 G1 that I previously owned, and it also seems quite a bit quieter than the Vega 56 as well, and it consumes far less power, something like 160 watts on average when gaming. I don't even like to think about what the Vega was doing to my electricity bill. Now I couldn't resist ending the video without throwing in Metro Exodus here. I'm playing through the opening level, and of course the frame rate may differ depending on where you are, but I just had to test this out as Metro Exodus seems to be the game at the moment in terms of how it pushes GPUs and CPUs to their limit. You can see that the Ryzen 5 is handling it just fine, and the GPU, even at 1440p here, is running at 95 to 100% most of the time. That's totally normal. It just means that we are getting the most out of our graphics card here, and I'd say that the CPU is a good pairing for it. However, I'll have more on that tomorrow when I run a few more benchmarks with these two in my new personal rig. So, all that's left to say is I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like on it if you did, leave a dislike if you didn't. Let me know if you would have purchased one of these cards at this price point, or what else you'd go for. Would you opt for the 2060, something like that? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.